Good afternoon, everybody. It's Wednesday afternoon already. I can hardly believe I'm saying that. The week is actually really flying by. Decided we're going to try the apple strudel again today. Same recipe as before. We're going to just do a few little change-ups. I'm going to get my apples ready here. I just been kind enough to actually peel 2 Granny Smith apples. These were purchased at Publix. And we're cutting the recipe in half. So if you're making the full batch, it actually makes 2 apple strudels, but since it's pretty much him and I eating it, and we try to limit our goodies, we're just going to use half the recipe, which would ask for, at that point, 2 Granny Smith apples. A little different than the apples that we used before. We both kind of like the tartness of the Granny Smith, so we're going to give it a whirl. The recipe just calls for sugar, a little bit of cornstarch, cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, and then it calls for some coarse salt. Along with that, we add a little bit of tap water, a tablespoon of butter, and that's what we're going to add our apples to in just a minute. I'm going to put the parchment paper actually on the countertop. I'm going to get the apples all cut up, and what this calls for is diced apples. Recipe out there, but it was one where I had all the ingredients. It looked like it was pretty easy. Last time when we made it, we actually used, powdered sugar glaze for the top, and Ed requested that this time maybe make it a little less sweet. So we're going to try to make it without the glaze, and I'm sure it'll still be good since we have enough sweetener in the apples, in the apple mixture rather. Kind of a weird thing about me, but this is actually the only time of year I really enjoy apples. I've actually mentioned that before to other people, and I don't know. Again, being a girl from up north, it was always the fun thing to do this time of year, to go to the apple orchards and pick apples, or get apples that were already picked, or just to have that whole orchard experience. Anyways, when you live in Florida, I guess that's not so much a thing. So we do our best to kind of make it happen in the kitchen, I guess. What's your favorite way to eat apples, folks? Do you like them baked? Do you like them fresh? I don't know, personally, I kind of like them caramel. There's just something I really enjoy about caramel, against especially a tart apple. I think Granny Smith's with a little bit of oozy caramel is especially yummy. Anyways, I've got these cut up into pretty much uniform size pieces. Once they cook, they will shrink down a little bit. Add that to our mixture. Make room for the other apple. Okay, got this in our saucepan. Okay, keep a little bit of an eye here on the apples. I said I want them to be a little bit on the firmer side, but not so much that there's crunch to them. Does that make sense? Anyways, that's the way I like them. I guess when you're cooking, you kind of get to be your own boss, right? Okay. Okay, so we've got the puff pastry, and we already used one of these strips before. About a week and a half ago, we actually made this recipe, and we both really enjoyed it. We just decided we'd try it today with just a couple different variations. About another 4.5 more minutes with the apples. And let this come, like I said, to room temperature, and then we'll roll it out. Get that ready while we've got the time. And I actually went out earlier today, and here it is, almost another week and October will be over, and it's still pretty hot out here. The days are definitely getting shorter. So definitely feeling a change of seasons that way, but definitely do miss the colors of the changing leaves. Turn that down just a little bit to like more medium. They seem to cook up pretty quickly. Last time I used the apples, we used something other than the Granny Smith, and it was good, and there was a good amount of crispness, but this time we decided that Granny Smith might be a better choice, since people kind of like that tartness. Just think that because they're a little firmer, it may take a little longer to cook them up. Pineapple on the countertop, that's for tonight's dinner. Ed tried to pass off a frozen pizza today, and I said, since you're the pizza king, no way, not happening. Likes at her house in Minnesota something that smells like apple pie baking. Imagine that.
They got my candle. They got my candle out. Christmas tree.
Oh, do they?
Christmas tree festival.
Oh. Ed is actually, he spends a lot of time looking, he's got a favorite candle, and it smells kind of like, I guess, pine?
Yankee Candle.
Yankee Candle. He's very specific about what he likes, and if it's not exactly what he wants, he'll pass it up. Seen it happen many times. Anyways, it's got a nice pleasant scent. Even though you're living in a warm climate, when you smell the pine, you kind of get the feel that maybe you're in someplace cooler. Right, Ed?
Right.
Here's the puff pastry. I really truthfully have not experimented with this a lot, but going online, it looks like there's some pretty cool things that you can actually do with it. I know back in our old neighborhood, there was a restaurant, they actually served Mediterranean food, and one of the desserts that they actually served was baklava, which is very delicious. It uses puff pastry, which is kind of thin, crispy layers of almost like pie crust, but much lighter and more flaky. It's very, very good. I believe, to my recollection, it had honey, cinnamon, there was butter, all things good, lots of walnuts. Okay, so it says that my timer is up. It still looks like my apples are pretty firm, so I'm going to go ahead and put the timer on for maybe 2 more minutes and see what happens. Keeping an eye on it the whole time. Does that smell good? And I went for a bike ride last weekend. Kind of the highlight of our 3-mile bike trip was actually, there's a house in the neighborhood. They actually do something for the local food drive. And they actually say, if you bring in a can or some non-perishable item, you can actually go through their haunted house tour. It's pretty cool. And it's pretty impressive what they do to their front yard. They pretty much transform it into like a cemetery. They've got the 4 big skeletons. They've got other skeletons that are actually carrying a coffin. They've got the gravestones up. It's a pretty spooky thing. It's pretty cool actually what they've done with it. I remember actually seeing it last year and I was pretty impressed by that. Seems like for some people, Halloween's actually as big a deal as Christmas when it comes to decorating. So, pretty fun. Okay, I'm just gonna check on our phyllo dough. I think we're in good shape with the apples. started this conversation, then kind of ended up talking about something else. Anyways, one of our other finds at Ollie's today was fresh pineapple. So what we're going to do tonight, since I talked Ed into homemade pizza, is hopefully he'll add some pineapple to our toppings. I love it with pepperoni or even hot Italian sausage. Either way, really good. Like that taste of sweet and hot coming together. Okay, folks. Take one of these apples, try it. That's the only way to finally really know that's actually done to my lightness. I do say so myself, quite delicious. Okay, so we're going to take this off the heat, let it cool down a bit. Go to the next step, rolling out our phyllo dough. Feels like it's still pretty cold. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give it a couple minutes just to let it down to room temperature just a little bit more. Okay, so the recipe we're using says to actually roll the puff pastry out to about 14 inches. And right now I think it's about 12. So a little ways to go. And it says it's best to work with it when it's a little bit cool. You just can't actually keep it on the parchment paper since that's what we're going to bake it on. I did it this way last time. It seemed like it worked actually out pretty slick. Excuse me. And I don't know if you can see on the camera, I'll hold it up here a little bit. This is actually folded into threes when it was frozen. It's kind of nice to have that as a guideline because we're actually going to put our cooked fruit, once it cools off, we're actually going to put where we actually cut our strips along the sides of it. And again, we're going to cut those strips so that we can actually braid it. I'm sure it doesn't really taste the way the strudel tastes, or in fact the taste of the strudel. It just gives it kind of a nicer, more kind of bakery-like look. So I'm going to go ahead and put a third of the mixture right down the middle of our strudel. Taking all these good smells, and I kind of understand why my daughter loves the smell of an apple pie smelling candle. I remember the first time I made this, I thought, no way would 2 apples be enough for filling. But as you can see, it does a nice job. Just need enough for the center. That's going to be kind of the bulk of our strudel. And then the next part, we're going to cut some nice straight perforated lines. Actually, we're not going to cut them straight. They're going to be straight diagonal. And what we'll do next is we'll actually braid them. That gives a pretty effect to this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, same on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See how that works. Needed to make those incisions just a little bit longer. One from this side, one from that side, one from this side, that side, same, overlap. What we'll do when we're done with this is we actually seal it off with an egg wash. And the stove, it's actually a little bit stronger than you might think. So when you give it a little bit of a pull, it's not a big deal. Pretty sturdy actually. Step on this one just a little. I think we can kind of make that still look nice. Okay, so we have that. This. Okay. Well, looks like that all came together pretty nicely. Gonna go ahead, pinch up the end so that the filling doesn't ooze out of it. This is pretty slick stuff. Sealing those up, but I'm sure it'll be amazing, and once the apples sit, it'll be just fine. So this is our finished product. Hopefully I'm not going to drop it first. This is what we got. Good. What do you think, Ed?
Looks good. Really good. Yep. Yeah, and I think without that all that sugar on top, it'll be a little bit better.
And I can justify eating 2 or 3 pieces since we don't have any sugar, right? That's the way it goes. We'll find out. Talk to you later, folks.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, jeez. I don't know. think you need more than what it says. Tastes good to me.